Hello, everyone. My guest today is Jeffrey Harris. He's the founder and CEO of SpringBig, a leading provider in cannabis, CRM, and loyalty marketing technology with over 25 million users across the United States and Canada. He's got over 15 years of marketing, sales, and management experience within the incentive marketing and loyalty marketing fields. Jeffrey, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's do it.
All right. Cannabis CRM. I mean, why can't cannabis companies just use HubSpot?
Sure. And actually they do. But what we created is a unique SaaS platform that helps our retail clients in cannabis manage their loyalty program, which is something HubSpot doesn't offer. And then through that loyalty program, we create a lot of different segmentation for them that they can leverage for text message marketing, which is kind of something else that HubSpot doesn't offer.
Interesting. Okay. And when did you launch the business? What year?
So we launched it in 2012, but when we launched it, it was originally for small business like pizza shops, yogurt shops, nail salons, hair salons. And we decided to pivot to cannabis in early 17. So we're kind of like on SpringBig 2.0, which kicked off in January of 17.
And why the pivot?
We thought that there would be much better opportunity, honestly, in cannabis for two reasons. One, the owner of the yogurt shop is hardly ever in the store, so it's hard to get him on the phone, him or her on the phone to get a decision. And we just saw such great opportunity in cannabis, and the competition was a lot lighter, so we thought it would be a good vertical.
So 2015 was the big pivot. Now, what do these cannabis companies pay you on average per month to use the technology?
So they pay us on average about $18,000 a year.
Oh, wow. So this is not cheap. This is like an enterprise motion.
No. Yeah, it's enterprise. We have some guys that are actually paying $20,000, $30,000, even $60,000 a month, and we have some paying as low as $450 a month.
What?
But the average is somewhere around $1,500 a month across the board.
That's wild. Wait, can I ask you what? Don't name them, but what's your largest customer pay you per year currently?
So we just had a client pay us $120,000 for the month.
And why is that? So you have an incredible ability here to have expansion revenue. Do it right. What are you upselling against?
So we're upsell. So what's really upselling is the volume of the text messages that they send out. So the larger their database and the more frequent that they send out messages. So we charge them a subscription fee for the platform. They get X amount of text messages included in that subscription. And then when they go over that allotment, they pay on an a la carte basis. So this particular retailer sent out over 16 million messages in the month of January. It was insane.
Holy mackerel. When you look at your total MRR today, like you did last month, what % is pure SaaS versus overage fees?
So about 70% is SaaS and about 30% in overage, which we actually like that mix well, because what it allows us to do is when we see a client of ours going over their subscription fee, we could actually use it as a driver to get them to move up to the next subscription. And when they do that, we also get them to sign for a new 12-month package. So it allows us to kind of get them re-upped at the same time.
That's really smart. How many customers are you serving today?
About 850.
850. Interesting. And how many customers were you at a year ago?
500.
Interesting. Where'd the growth come from?
So it comes from, more and more states are opening up for cannabis. So it comes from new markets that are coming in. And it also comes from the existing more mature markets like California. Where, we continue to just grab more and more share as our brand continues to get more awareness.
Mm-hmm. Now, can I take 850 times 1,500 a month, right, as your average? You're doing like, what is that, 1.3 million a month, something like that?
A little bit more, right?
So
a bunch more.
Wait, a little more or a bunch more?
A bunch more.
I want to give you credit where credit's due. Can you share what run rate?
A bunch more. Some clients are just spending so much higher than the average. So we basically have two businesses in one. We have an enterprise business for some of these larger clients. And then we have what I'll call our bread and butter customer that is anywhere from 1 to 5 locations. So we have actually two businesses in one. So it's kind of interesting to be serving two totally different groups of clients.
Yep. Basically they're the same technology. It's just usage. They use it way more.
Yeah, and some of the larger clients will do some custom implementation work for them. So it helps them from an operational flow and a compliance flow from that standpoint. So we will do some custom work for them, primarily because we integrate with most of the industry's point of sale. So there may be some custom workflow that we do with the point of sale. But for the most part, the technology.
So bigger. Are you doing more than 2 million a month?
No, not yet.
Can you hit that this year?
Yeah, we will hit that this year for sure.
We love that. Now, I'll be really impressed if you've done this bootstrapped.
No, we did actually raise about $20 million in capital.
There we go.
I wish we would have bootstrapped it too. I love our partners. So any of the investors that are listening today, I love you. But yeah, we actually raised 3 rounds. We raised a seed, an A, and then you can call it an A1 or a B. So we raised about $20 million since the end of 17. So we bootstrapped until the end of 17. And then we said, you know what? Let's get some partners in here.
So break that down for me. When was the last round and how much?
11.5 million in August of this past year, August 20.
11.5. Okay. And what was prior to that?
5 million in November of 18, and then 2.7 million in November of 17.
Interesting. Okay. And this was your baby, right? You didn't come in as like a CFO or CEO from okay, got it.
Yeah, my baby.
I love that. Now, so I have to ask, like, the cannabis thread here. Like, now, are you just a business guy and you're like, cannabis is where I want to go? Or did you start sort of using this and seeing, personal improvement in performance?
No, I'm a business guy and thought there was a great opportunity in cannabis. So, So, I mean, I am really pro-cannabis. I've become very much pro-cannabis over the last few years because I see the benefits that cannabis offers a lot of people. But at the end of the day, when we got into it from a market opportunity more so than from a social cost. For sure.
Yeah. I was going to say the benefit is a $20 million ARR company.
Yeah, that is for sure. That definitely helps.
That's part of the benefit.
No question about it.
That's part of the benefit. Sure. Okay, round out your team for me. How many folks on the team?
So we have about 110 people on the team right now.
How many engineers?
About 40. So that's a big part of the team. Our client success team has about 30. Mm-hmm. Our sales team has about 15. Our marketing team has about 10. Then obviously we have some finance and HR people, and we have a new business that we launched in the summer of 2020. It's a business focused on brands versus retailers, and we have about 15 people in the brands team as well. So
is that a business? Is that an agency model or a SaaS play?
No, so that's actually it's a MarTech model where brands have the ability to serve up content to retailers that are selling their product, and when the retailer grabs that content and includes it in their text message, the retailer gets their message at no cost and the brand pays a CPM. So it's a way for brands with our it's now 27, 28 million consumers. Brands have a real need to get directly into the consumer's smartphone to get to the consumer. They have a difficult time doing it. So we basically have created kind of like a partnership opportunity where the brands, where they are sold and the retailers, they could serve up content to those retailers. Retailers grab the content, and the quid pro quo is retailers get that message gratis and the brand pays for access to those consumers that they really don't have access to otherwise. So
what margin do you build in there, your cost of the text versus the CPM you're charging the brand that wants to get access to the retailer?
So it's about 85% margin.
Damn. That's great.
So the margin's really good because right now the brands don't have the ability today to get to that consumer. There's very few avenues for them to do it. And the retailer in our industry owns the consumer. So giving brand the ability to really create the content, make sure that the messaging of their brand is exactly as they want it. Retailers like it because they get nicer looking content to serve up to their customers. Retailers get a little bit of a break. Brands get, access to these customers. But then the big deal is it drives customers into the retailer. So the retailer is really happy because it's leveraging their database to drive purchase activity and store traffic into their store.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fascinating. Okay, this is great. Really interesting story here. So got the team size fleshed out. Of your sales employees, the 15, how many carry a quota?
Every one of them.
They all do. What do you set quota at?
So we have a dual quota system. So we set quota at 10 deals per sales rep per month is the quota. Mm-hmm. And we don't penalize them if they don't hit quota. They just have an accelerator when they go over quota from the standpoint of making more commission on the 11th deal, the 12th deal, the 13th deal. And then each person has a different quota depending on their territory. So for example, the person handling California will have a different quota than the person handling Missouri. That's an example. So we look at, because deals are different, right? In California, there are a lot more what I'll call higher subscription deals than there are in like a Missouri or an Alaska or places like that. So we look at the state by state configuration to understand what's the appropriate way to handle it.
10 customers in terms of a sales rep's closing per month at your average at $1,500 a month times 12. I mean, I think that's about $180,000 in new ARR closed per month, or almost a $2 million quota per rep. That's high.
It's high. Now they're not hitting again because it's kind of like a benchmark, not a quota. And
Got it.
half of our sales team are SDRs, right? So we have 6 BDMs, and we have every BDM has an SDR associated with them. So it's not that we have 12 salespeople. So we have 15 people in the sales department. Of those, 6 are selling every day. 6 are, driving demos for those salespeople. Then we obviously have our head of sales, and we have some partnership people. So it's not all salespeople, but yes, the goal is for the 6 salespeople. Now, some hit it, some don't, but the goal is that we just hired 3 new ones. So the goal is for all of them to hit it.
So I'm very excited for this next question because I think you might be like top quartile. We've done 3,000 of these interviews, and you have the shot at being this because of what you told me about pricing. But let me ask, what's gross revenue churn over the past 12 months? Gross.
Churn?
Gross revenue churn.
Negative. So we're
about gross. Negative. Gross, not net. Gross.
Meaning, so tell me what? So what is actually churning on a gross basis?
Ignore expansion revenue.
On a monthly basis, anywhere between 0.5%.
Got it. So now to your first point, which is what I wanted to get to, is what's your expansion revenue monthly or annually?
So we run about a negative 5%, so about 105% net retention.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So 6% churn, 11% expansion gives you about 105% net revenue retention, or said the inverse is negative 5% churn rate, which is great.
Correct.
But I am a little surprised. I thought you'd be much higher because you have such an enterprise motion. It seems like you could take people from $5,000 a month and get them to $10,000 a month fairly easily with more usage.
Yeah, and you can, right? But I think what ends up happening is it takes a while for customers to add to their database. And, and we're also, believe it or not, as interested as we are in growing our revenue as fast as possible, we're also interested in making sure the client relationship and the way the client's using the platform is probably best in class and most appropriate for them. So we will actually go to clients, as crazy as it sounds, and say, hey, you're texting too much, right? Because you're not seeing the value from it. Because at the end of the day, I'd much rather have that client for 5 years and get them to generate a little bit less revenue each year than let them go ahead and go crazy on texting and have more revenue in the short term. But then they come back to me and say, hey, I just spent $22,000 and I'm not seeing the same ROI. So we kind of look at it. Each state has its own culture. And I'm a real believer in the long game with our customers. It's so difficult to get customers that we want to really make sure we take care of them correctly so that they stay with us for a long time.
Yep. What month did you raise $11.5 million last year?
August.
Interesting. Okay. And so, you probably don't need it now. You probably have a lot of that cash still sitting in the bank. But you think you'll raise again this year?
No, don't need it.
Yeah.
So I think, we're running, give or take, depending on the month, we're running either a little bit in the red or a little bit in the black. So we just made an acquisition on Friday. We bought a customer feedback reputation management company.
Oh, tell me about that. What'd you pay for it?
I can't disclose what we paid for it, but it was a good deal all around. The seller and the buyer felt really comfortable with it. At the end of the day, it's a Canadian-based company that does customer feedback and reputation management in cannabis. So we picked up 2 real assets. We picked up some great people in Canada, which is a big growth market for us that we're focused on in 21. And we also now have a cross-sell, upsell opportunity to all of our clients. So just think about a post-visit survey to the store where, we score, that visit experience based on 4 or 5 different metrics. And then we give the client a dashboard so they could really understand what customers are telling them about their experience. But more importantly, if you score a 4 or a 5 as a consumer, you're going to automatically be served up the Google review page for that retailer to leave a review. So it really drives more reviews, which helps the stores from an SEO perspective and a number of other perspectives. So it's a really nice fit for what we're doing. And most importantly, we picked up some great talent that's going to really help us in Canada.
Talk to me about growth. If you're doing about 1.5, 1.6 a month today, what were you doing about a year ago? Do you remember?
Half.
Wow. So, 100% year-over-year growth, even during COVID. Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. And with that growth rate, when you raised $11.5 million last year in August, what valuation did you raise at? A range is fine.
About 100.
And did that feel fair at the time, or you feel like you could have gotten a better deal?
I think, it felt okay, honestly. I think it was but at the end of the day, we really wanted the fund that was leading it because we really thought they could add a lot of value to the business and we weren't diluting a lot. So I wasn't as concerned about it. And we love the partner. It's a company in San Diego called TVC Capital. That's a SaaS only growth fund. So
know those guys well. Heard good things.
not being a SaaS guy myself, this is my first SaaS operation. I really wanted to surround myself with people that know it better than me. So as we scale and as we grow, I have people that have seen it before, done it before, and can basically help me avoid the pitfall. So I was happy. I was very happy.
Would you ever go buy one of these marketplaces? LeafLink's doing very well. There's a couple of these others in the space. Would you ever go buy one of these guys?
Yeah. So we talk about, I talk with LeafLink all the time and we chat and, there's a lot of conversation. We're trying to figure out, the big question, obviously 21 is going to be a big year in cannabis with everything that's happened on the macro basis from, the government perspective and the government changeover, which is huge. And with what's happening just in terms of, Weed Maps who's going to go public through the NASDAQ. There's just a ton of things happening in cannabis. So there's a lot of moving parts right now. So we're trying to figure out, from a strategic standpoint. So Bud Tender was one. We have a couple of other ideas that we're looking at and how do we round out our product offering, because we are the leading provider in what we do today. So we add 30 customers, 35 customers a month right now, and it's going to go up. So we want to figure out ways that we could really add value to the customer, things that they need that make sense for us, that are a natural fit in. So so we're looking at all that stuff and we're talking about it and we're trying to develop strategies around it.
Really interesting stuff. Okay. Last question before we wrap up. CAC. What are you paying to get a new $18,000 a year contract usually?
Yeah. So it's about all in, it's a little less than $3,000. So we're breaking even.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. Very good. Yeah. All right. Let's wrap up, Jeffrey, with the famous 5. Number 1, favorite business book.
Good to Great.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Bezos.
Number 3, an old CEO now, we should add, but still nonetheless, that's 20 good years. Number 3.
I love what he told me. I love what I read about him, that he doesn't start a meeting before 10 o'clock. So I just there's interesting stuff about him for sure.
Yeah. My kind of guy. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building the business?
Salesforce.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
8.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
Married, kids. All my youngest just graduated college in December.
Oh, great! How many kids total?
3. So,
oh, wow!
Everybody's off the payroll, so so congratulate me.
That's exciting. Yeah. And how old are you? Take us back to when you were 20. What's something you wish you knew?
Back then, when I was 20.
Yep.
That I wasn't nearly as smart as I thought I was.
Guys, SpringBig, a CRM for the cannabis industry. They were doing about 8.9 million a year, call it 13, 14 months ago. Now doing, call it 18, 19 million year over year growth, around 100%. They've got an incredible growth rate serving the space. They're working with right now about 850 customers, up from 500 about a year ago. Did about $11.5 million raise in August last year at a healthy valuation called $100 million. As they look to continue to scale, they're making acquisitions. They just made a big one and staying very close to the industry. Should they buy more companies? Maybe there's an IPO in the future. We'll see. In the meantime, Jeff, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers, they try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.